In this video you're about to see will be a little chat between myself and my friend Andrew Hewson. The chat was just evolving out of a discussion that we were having about time and the cycles of time. It's a very abstract discussion, but I'm uploading it because I think everyone will find it interesting anyway. We tie in lots of different concepts of ego and three gunas and devotion and dharma and lots of terms that everyone's used to, but between Dorothy and Andrew, those ideas get taken to another level, which is really beautiful. One of the reasons I appreciate Andrew is because his perspective is just a little different from mine, but also enough the same that we can meet in the middle and expand the field of knowledge. So I hope you enjoy this. Definitely check out Andrew's website, andrewhewson.com. He also was recently interviewed by Rick Archer on Buddha at the Gas Pump, and I encourage everyone to watch that video as well, and I hope you enjoy this excerpt very much. Thanks for watching.
That actual loop, that's loops within loops within loops within loops within loops within loops, like that, is what I call the tension threshold collapse function that spontaneously manifests. So that's the loop: tension threshold collapse, 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 like that. Everything, and all the cells are tension threshold collapse, and the words right now are tension threshold collapse, and everything is an expression of a tension threshold collapse function. Yeah. That so that is also the centralization principle of egoity, that the expression or the emergence of perceptual formation is guided by that centralized intelligence. And so when we look at the loops or those cycles, that is a macrocosmic level, as far as the creation, the appearance of this universal creation is concerned, of egoity. And within that macrocosmic expression of egoity, we see the microcosmic expression of egoity at multiple levels as well. Yes. So Dharma, and the unfoldment of that potentiality into perceptual formation within the bubble, the borderless bubble of nonlinear potential that's expressing as this universe or multiverse structure. The emergence of that is basically the mixture of presence and absence. Absence being attributelessness or qualitylessness, and then based on the background of qualitylessness, we see the emergence of qualities. And if we look at that from a perspective of the gunas, then we just see three variations of the degrees of presence and absence, which then are mixed together like that. But it can also contextualize it differently. So this presence and absence principle, then, what we witness as the emergence of the universal presentation of creation, and what we consider to be dharma and adharma, those different sides of the spectrum, is basically whether the degree of presence is prevailing or the degree of absence is prevailing. So the emergence of that
ties in with the concept of ego, of whether it's the individual ego or it's the big universal.
Exactly. So it's the same. What's going on the level of the yugas, and that same expression is contained within the soul on the point value. And then, even just here on our human, in the human experience, if we kind of, look at
I love how you weave in the balance of the three gunas. Describe and illuminate the different points along the spectrum of that universal to individual experience, or you could say positioning of perception. That's very interesting.
And one of the things that is really fascinating is that actually some of that there's expression, there's actually a level of egoity which is beyond the gunas.
Right.
So,
right. Yes.
but
I agree completely. Yes.
but we see that it's a way of helpfully looking at it, right? And particularly when it comes to the spectrum within the sphere of like subtle layers of manifestation coming into what we perceive as gross formation. Yes, the mixture of presence and absence, and whether the presence side of things is prevailing or the absence side of things is prevailing. When the presence side of things is prevailing, we call that dharma. When the absence side of things is prevailing, we call that adharma. Yes?
Oh, yes.
What's interesting about this, and this probably ties into what you were talking about earlier with the return movement, is that actually as the presence begins to prevail, there is a large surfacing of all that has been based in the prevalence of absence, because the lights are becoming brighter in the room that was previously dark. Everything that was based in the darkness starts to be shown up to the light. All of that material that has been, that seemed to be prevailing, and the laws of nature there that are associated with various aspects of experience that have been considered more on the darker side, then are being brought up into the light. And actually, this is what I've realized is so important. There are subtle positions that have developed that, because in the darker age, it was preferable. On one level, renunciation was considered to be a preferable path because it was appropriate for the age. And also, there was some, out of necessity, condemnation of certain areas of experience, or pushing it away and cutting it off. So, but what is present on a subtle level, there are these locks that are in place. They're like little, they're like little positions. They're positions against this, against a dharma, against these areas of experience which have been considered unspiritual. These are unspiritual things. And as long as these positions are here, that material cannot return to the light. That absence-based material cannot be folded into the presence, because those locks are in place, those positions which have deemed that those areas to be unspiritual on a planetary level, whether someone's conscious of it or not. And there are, of course, attempts to reconcile various levels of guilt and things that go with that stuff. And anyways, it's a whole huge subject, which this is just now, there's just now really enough clarity to look at it from this perspective. So identifying or allowing these positions to surface, seeing them, these locks can be unlocked.
Yes.
And it's almost like there was, okay, all of this is the self, but not this. This can't be considered a part of that. So these were like little dungeons in a way, where certain areas of experience were packed away, and even laws of nature associated with that. But the interesting thing is that these energies actually perpetuate through the presence of the lock. Yes, they dissipate when they're totally allowed attentively.
Right. I was just going to say that, actually. Yes.
Folded in on that level. So that's what has been going on here then the past week. And then we see what comes up now as Dharma begins to shine forth or stabilize or reveal itself on a fuller and fuller level. That surfacing starts to take place. So we encounter all of these areas of experiencing, human experiencing, which were based in the prevalence of the absence side. But the natural movement is for those things to seek to return or be absorbed in the presence, yes, or to balance out in the prevalence of the presence. But because these locks are in place, there is difficulty in that really taking place. So we can actually work with basic tools that typically would work in other areas, but this is going to seem like there's an inexhaustibility, like there's a bottomless pit, and no matter what takes place, it's not shifting. Well, that has to do with the lock still being in place. It has to do with the position still being in place.
I love your concept of the locks, and I'll definitely, drop that into the field of my own
Yeah, I think
finest
that,
thinking and see what can come up for healings to support the all of
yes.
that. And I agree that what separation longs for the most is unity.
Mm-hmm.
And for all
Mm-hmm.
those little spots where separation has created problems, the answer is, reaching out and embracing that separation so that it no longer feels separated.
Yes, it is. Exactly. And there's some very dark areas that need to
Oh
be
boy.
given attention. But it really requires I think it requires a certain level to give attention to some of these darker areas,
Yeah,
because you have to be so certain about your fundamental identity
right,
that these things are able to come up in a safe container to
right,
be resolved without being expressed and without being pushed away.
right.
So there's a very, very, very fine line, and it can be intense,
Yeah,
like on the nervous system. So also the nervous system has to be really
stable
equipped for that.
and flexible.
And flexible,
Flexible
exactly.
and stable both at the same time.
That's it, immovable, flexible at the same time, right?